So welcome to this WIMSA event in connection with the School of Business. So WIMSA is a place which conducts high-level, cutting-edge research, and we had great conferences the previous weeks with a lot of Fields Medals, and we have another conference that's coming with Fields Medal winners. And in fact, you are in the presence of greatness, Robert Aumann, Nobel Prize winner, and Philip Griffiths, winner of the Chern Medal and many other big prizes. So, Philip. So, but we always remember that when we were very little, we started our education in this kind of math circles where people who get some experience were telling us some stories about mathematics, and this is how we all started. And what we want to do now is to give back to the society, and that's the idea behind WIMSA and all outreach programs that we have. So without further ado, let me give the opportunity to Mina Teicher, who is our Senior Liaison for Outreach, to introduce today's speaker, Robert Aumann.
Thank you very much. We are very grateful that you agreed to give us this talk. This is really a great opportunity for all the community, for IMSA, for WIMSA, for the business school, but the entire mathematical community, because this lecture is broadcasted to the entire network of IMSA worldwide. So this will give us the opportunity for some people the first time to listen to Nobel Prize laureate, and for the WIMSA students and girls to know that mathematics can bring you anywhere. Mathematics, a great mathematician ends up with Nobel Prize in economics. So mathematics is everywhere. Professor Aumann was born in Germany, and his family had to flee to the United States just in time before the Second World War started. And then he was educated in New York. He got his PhD from MIT, and then he went to Princeton. But then he decided to move to Israel, and he became a professor in the Hebrew University in Israel, where he was, and slowly he became one of the great figures of game theory, a section of mathematics which ends up with a lot of applications to many fields in business, in negotiation, and in economics. So his contribution to economics gave him the Nobel Prize in mathematics, in economics. You know that there is no Nobel Prize in mathematics, and there are many rumors why there is no Nobel Prize of mathematics. One of them is personal issues of Nobel when he gave the prize with a certain mathematician, but Robert Aumann got it, Robert Aumann got it for economics. I want to say to add two jokes before we start, two remarks. The first one, that after he got the prize, people asked him, how is this influencing economics? So his answer was, I don't know. My economics friends tell me that it's very influential, but I don't know anything in economics. So that was the Nobel Prize in economics. And another personal remark, that we are friends from when I was an undergraduate student. I went to a big congress in Helsinki, and I looked at all these people that are so amazing, and they gave such amazing talk at the International Congress of Mathematics. And I was standing in the side a little bit, maybe nervous. I don't know how I looked. So he came to me, to an undergraduate student. He said, don't worry, you are the best. So from that day on, I got this encouragement from him. Don't worry, you will be good. So thank you very much. And I'm looking forward, everybody looks forward to listen to you. Mathematics in the Talmud, the case of the three widows. Please.
Okay. All right. Good morning. over there in Miami. Over here it's evening, but I guess it's morning in Miami. And good morning to everybody all over the world who's listening to this. Let me let me first tell you a little bit about what the Talmud is. The Talmud is a document which is was composed between 100 and 3 or 450 years over a period of about 300 years, maybe 150 to 450. And so it's a long time ago. It's a millennium and a half ago, up to 2 millennia ago, and it forms the basis for Jewish religious practice, and it also contains a lot of civil law of the time of the civil law that was originated in the Bible and is explicated in the Talmud. It consists really of two parts. One is a set of dicta, okay, rules, okay, and the other part is the explanation of the rules. So here I will give you an example, okay. Wait a minute. Uh-oh. Just now it worked, but it's not working now. Well, let me try this again. Stop share. Okay. Now share screen. Here we go. Okay. Uh, okay. As the shared window is closed. Now, okay. Now let's try this again. Oh, okay. All right. We had a bad moment here, but I don't know what I did to fix this, but it's fixed. All right. So, oops. No, it's not fixed. Not fixed. Stop sharing. Here we go. Okay, sorry for that, but I don't always know what's going on in this guy. Do people see this page? It's a page. Hello?
You're not shared. You're not shared.
Share, please share.
You see the page?
No.
No. Okay.
Share the
Oh
page.
my God. Wait a minute. Okay. Now. Okay, we are. Now share screen. Do you see this?
Yes.
Yeah, do you see this? The slide says mathematics and the Talmud, right? Okay. Okay. Now you see this? The slide says mathematics and the Talmud. Okay.
Yeah.
Does everybody see this? Yeah? Okay. Now, okay. Now here is a page from a standard edition of the Talmud. Now I have it's in Hebrew or in dialect of Hebrew, and you have here I put a red circle around the dictum, and then the rest of the page is a discussion of this dictum. Okay, let me now read what the dictum says. If a man with 3 wives dies, his obligation to them being 100, 200, and 300 dinars respectively, and there are only 100 in the estate, then the 3 wives divide equally, okay? It used to be okay for in the Jewish tradition for a man to have several wives, but this was outlawed in the 10th century, so about 1,000 years ago. But at the time of the writing of the Talmud, it was okay to have several wives. So, but together with when a man marries, he writes a marriage contract with his wife, and he says the obligation he has certain obligations to the wife, and these obligations must be carried out if the marriage ends by divorce or by death. Okay. Now, the obligations to the 3 wives were 100, 200, and 300 dinars respectively. And there are only 100 in the estate, and he died. Okay. Then what happens? And the 3 must divide equally. Okay, so they get 33 and a third each. If there are 200, then the one who has an obligation of 100 takes 50, and the other 2, 75 each. So that sums up to 200. If there are 300, then the one of 100 takes 50, the one of 200 takes 100, and the one of 300 takes 150. And that's was about AD 200. So it's about 1820 years ago. Okay. Now, here we put this in tabular form. Here is if the estate is on the side, the obligation is on the top, and it's if there are 100, it's 33 and a third each. If there are 300, then it's 100, it's 50, 100, 150. And if there are 200, then we have 50, 75, 75. Now, the first line makes some sense. I mean, you could say the 3 wives have to divide equally until the time that they until the time that each one gets his estate. Yeah. So if there are if there's only 100, then it doesn't matter that there are more people in there. Each one the people have larger obligations. It doesn't matter. You divide what there is equally. It makes some sense. And the last line also makes sense. It's proportional to the obligations, proportional to the debt. You have a you divide the estate. Hello, is I don't hear anybody. Are people? Are you there? Am I? What? Somehow I don't hear anything. Usually, when I give a lecture by Zoom, there's some background, and I see some people. Here, I only see the classroom. There, I don't see any people.
People are very listening. People are listening. That's why they
and
don't
then
talk.
I see a sort of an empty classroom, and I don't see any people, and I don't hear anybody. So if there are any questions, please ask. But here we have these. So we have the first line represents equal division. The third line represents proportional division. And the second line is mysterious. We don't know where it comes from. Why should they divide 50, 75, 75? It's not clear. Okay, let's go on. So what's the rule? Okay, we have three different cases. You can't have three different rules for three different cases. Okay, so what's the rule? So almost a millennium after this dictum was published, came into existence, Rabbi Isaac Alfasi, so he is in the 11th century, wrote that Rabbi Hari Gaon, who had lived about 100 years before him, understood our Mishnah, this dictum, in terms of the contested garment rule. Now, what's the contested garment rule? And that is a different rule which is set forth in a different part of the Talmud. If two litigants hold a garment, and one says it's all mine, and the other says it's half mine, half of it belongs to me, then they split 3/4, 1/4. All right, they split the value of the garment 3/4, 1/4. Now there's a commentator on the Talmud. It's called Rashi. He lived. Now it's about 1,000 years ago. Now it's a little less than 1,000 years ago, but he is the prime commentator on the Talmud. And he says this is equal division of the contested amount. What does that mean, equal division of the contested amount? Well, two hold a garment. One says it's all mine, and the other says it's half mine. Then the one who says it's half mine, he concedes that half of it belongs to the other one. Okay, so the entire garment is not contested. Only half the garment is contested. All right, so you divide the contested amount equally. Okay, so the contested amount is a half. You divide that 1/4, 1/4, and the half that the one who says it's half mine concedes to the other one goes all to the one who says it's all mine. So the result is 3/4, 1/4. Okay, is that clear? I'm
Yes,
sort of not, is that clear, or should I explain it again? I need some, it seems to me that I'm talking in a room alone. Yeah, I don't see anybody either.
the room is very
Very
big, so
weird.
people
It's
are
very
sitting in
weird
the
for
back.
me. I've never given a Zoom lecture of this kind. There doesn't seem to be anybody here. I don't
No.
see anybody. People are ah okay. Sime, good morning. Good morning. I'm glad to see you. Okay, if somebody else would show up, I'd be really happy. Okay. Uh, okay. Now, but how is this related to our Mishnah, to what we saw before, the table that we saw? So here's an interesting thought. Rabbi Haikaon perhaps noticed that in our Mishnah, any two widows divide the amount that they together get by equal division of the contested amount. Okay? Uh, let's see that is really true. Okay, here is uh, the table that we had before. Okay, if the estate and the obligations. Let's take uh, let's take the middle case. Okay, when there's 200 in the estate. When there's 200 in the estate, then the woman, Mrs. 100 and Mrs. 200, Mrs. 100 gets 50 and Mrs. 200 gets 75, right? So together they get 125, right? Now, how would they divide that amount that they together get by when you do equal division of the contested amount? The way they would divide it is that the contested amount is 100, right? One woman wants only 100, so she concedes out of that 125. She concedes 25 to the other woman. So she gets half of the contested amount. The contested amount is 50, so she gets 50. And the woman of 200 gets that 50, half of the contested amount, plus the 25 that the other woman concedes to her. Okay? All right, let's try another one. Uh, uh, let's try the first line. The first line, the two women, let's take Mrs. 200 and Mrs. 300, okay? Mrs. 200 gets 33 and a third. Mrs. 300 gets 33 and a third, okay? So together they get 66 and 2/3. Now, together they get 66 and 2/3. And what's the contested amount? Well, the contested amount is all of that sum because Mrs. 100 wants 100. So certainly she wants 66 and 2/3. And Mrs. Mrs. 200 wants 66 and 2/3, and Mrs. 300 wants 66 and 2/3. So the contested amount is the entire amount, so they divide equally. Okay. Let's take the last line. Okay, the 300. In the 300. Mrs. 100, okay, Mrs. 100 gets 50, right? So together, Mrs. 200 gets 50, Mrs. 300 gets 150. Together, they get 200, okay? Now, how much of that 200 is claimed by Mrs. 100? How much of that is of the 200 is claimed by her? Well, she claims only 100. She concedes out of the 200, she concedes 100 to Mrs. Mrs. 300. So Mrs. 300 gets the 100 that is conceded to her. She gets 50, which is the contested amount, which is half the contested amount. So we see here that any two women get divide equally any two widows divide the amount that they get by equal division of the contested amount. Okay, so we call a division of the estate among the widows CG consistent, contested garment consistent in accordance with the contested garment rule. If it obeys that rule, that any two widows divide the amount that they together get by equal division of the contested amount. By the way, I should know, you see, over here we see that the division rule is division rule among three or more, but in this case, three participants, but among any number of participants, you see that the division rule is derived from the rule between two people, and that's the case also in equal division. What is equal division among n participants? Equal division of an amount. You want to divide a certain sum of money equally between n people. So you give that amount. Let's say you want to divide 100 between n people. So you give each one 100 divided by n, right? But that means that that's the same as saying that any two divide equally. Any two divide equally. And it's the same with proportional division. So over here we're proposing, apparently Rabbi Haigaon said that we have a division which among n people, which is which accords with a certain sensible division rule among two people. Okay, and that is the that's the. So now we're going through this. Through this calculation that we just went through, that in fact this the Mishnah, the rule that was given by the Mishnah for dividing the estate is in fact it's contested garment. So we didn't look at all the rules, but all the pairs. But believe me, all the pairs divide by the contested garment rule. What happened here? Okay. So indeed, the divisions in our Mishnah are contested garment consistent. And now we ask, what if the obligations, the estate, or the number of widows is different? So, we looked into this and we found this theorem. Okay, mathematicians make their living out of theorems. Okay, And the theorem is no matter how many widows there are, no matter how much is due to each one, and no matter how much there is in the estate, there's always one and only one division that is consistent with the contested garment rule. Okay, there's always one and only one. There's one and only one CG consistent division of the estate among the widows. And this is joint work of Michael Mashler and your humble servant. And it was published in the Journal of Economic Theory in 1985. So it's pretty old. It's not as old as the Talmud, but it's pretty old. Okay. Now, we have, I guess, about 15 minutes to go. Maybe we can give the proof, because we wasted a lot of time on setting this up. I'll try to give you the proof. So we depict the putative CG consistent division by means of an interconnected system of vessels. Okay, here are the vessels. And we think of the estate as a valuable liquid. Each widow has one vessel whose capacity is her obligation. Now we depict the vessel in this way. Each vessel is divided into half, so they all have the same height, but the capacity of the vessels is different, and that is because we divide the vessel into two parts, a bottom part and a top part, like in the picture, okay? In the picture, the bottom part and the top part are connected by a narrow pipe, but the bulk of the contents of the vessels is in the large part. So also the part that is connects between the vessels is also considered negligible. So we pour the estate into the system, and each widow gets the amount in her vessel. Now we assert that this division, we call it the hydraulic division, is CG consistent, and that no other division is CG consistent. Having trouble again. I don't know what happened here. Again, we're having trouble. Okay. Okay, so to show that this hydraulic division is CG consistent, we start with two women and show that the hydraulic division satisfies the criterion of equal division of the contested amount. And now there are three cases. Okay. So the first case is that the estate is less than or at most equal to the smaller obligation. Now here, each widow claims the entire estate because it's less than the smaller. It's less than or equal to the smaller obligation. So under equal division of the contested amount, each widow gets half of it, and half of since the estate is smaller than the smaller obligation, it means each widow gets half of the smaller obligation. Okay, uh, so that's what the hydraulic division prescribes. Okay, you see this? The the bottom and the top half are the um, uh, each widow, you have a large widow on the right and a smaller widow on the left, and the top and the bottom of the vessel are half of the obligation, okay? And when the estate is less than or equal to the smaller obligation, and we have this picture over here, okay? We get the estate doesn't even half the estate doesn't even get up to half of the lower part of the vessel. So we have this. Okay. The next case is when the smaller obligation is less than the estate and is less, and the estate is less than the larger obligation. So here the widow with the smaller obligation claims her obligation, and the widow with the larger obligation claims the entire estate. Okay? So the contested amount is exactly the smaller obligation. So each widow gets half the smaller obligation, and the widow with the larger obligation gets all the rest. That's exactly what the hydraulic division prescribes. Here we have one case, and here we have the other case, okay? The widow with the smaller obligation gets half her obligation. That's the bottom part, okay? And the other widow gets all the rest. Now, the third possibility is that the large obligation is less than the estate. Okay? So here, neither woman claims the entire estate because even the larger obligation is less than the estate. And the situation looks like this. The smaller obligation is colored red, the larger is colored blue, and the disputed amount is green. The estate is black, okay? So we have we have this situation as depicted over here. Under the contested garment rule, each widow is awarded what the other does not claim, plus half the disputed amount. So the widow, can you see the arrow here? Can you see the arrow?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. So you see, each widow is awarded what the other does not claim. So, for example, the red widow is awarded what the other one does not claim, which means which the other one claims up to here. So the red widow is awarded this amount, okay? And the blue widow is awarded what the red does not claim. So is awarded up to here, okay? And plus half the disputed amount. Okay, half the disputed amount is half the green. Okay, so that's her entire, that means she gets her obligation, but less half the green. Okay, the red woman gets up to here, and then half the obligation. So it's the entire amount less half the green. Okay. It follows that with the consistent garment rule, the difference between the awards is equal to the difference between the obligations. Okay? Because each woman gets her entire obligation less half the green. So the difference between the awards is equal to or in symbols, the larger woman under the contested garment rule, the difference between what she gets and what the smaller woman gets. Okay, I denoted the larger woman by capital and the smaller by a lowercase letter. So we get this, where it's the difference between the obligations, and the obligation of the larger woman is by a capital O, and the obligation to the other woman is indicated, to the smaller woman is indicated by a lowercase o. So now we continue. After the estate is poured into it, the hydraulic system looks like this. Okay, that's when the larger obligation is less than the estate. Here, the liquid between the green lines is the difference between the obligations. Okay, the obligation of the larger woman is her entire vessel. Okay, that's the obligation. Okay, so the entire vessel. So the difference between the obligations is what we see in these green lines. The difference is the amount of liquid between the obligations. And it's also the difference between the awards, okay? Because we see the awards are, this is the awards are the amount that I have colored red. So these two differences are equal. That means the award under the hydraulic solution, the difference between the award under the hydraulic solution, which is indicated by the subscript H, is equal to the difference between the obligations. So we saw above that the difference between the obligations are the difference between what is awarded to them under the contested garment rule. And so we see from this that with the hydraulic method, it gives the same difference to the obligations as the contested garment rule. So, but the sum of the awards under both the contested garment rule and the hydraulic system is the estate. So we have two quantities, okay, two quantities whose the difference and sum is the same, okay? All right, so it follows that if it follows that that the AH is equal to the larger woman gets the same under the hydraulic system as as under the contested garment rule, and ditto for the smaller woman. Okay, so that means the hydraulic division is the same as the contested garment division. Okay. Now we're almost finished. Okay. We now pour the estate into the system of vessels. So we want to prove that there exists a contested garment division solution. We pour the estate into the system of vessels. Then in any two vessels, the liquid reaches the same height. So as between those two vessels, the division is hydraulic. So it obeys the contested garment rule. All right. Thus, the hydraulic division, and there always is a hydraulic division, is contested garment consistent. So that proves the existence of a CG consistent division between any number of widows with any parameters. Okay, so that proves existence and a uniqueness with more than two widows in a vessel system. Cut the connection between any two vessels. Okay, cut it. Now, given a CG consistent division, pour each widow's award into her vessel. Any two widows divide by the contested garment rule, so the liquid reaches the same level in any two vessels. So the level is uniform throughout the system. And that is the hydraulic division. So so there's only one CG consistent division. And that completes the proof of the theorem, and I have run out of time. I hope some of this got through, but I want to stress the amazing thing, and that is that this is a theorem which maybe is not very deep, but it's quite amazing that the sages of the Talmud, who lived just about 2,000 years ago, 1,800 years ago, came up with this idea, which matches another part of the Talmud, the contested garment situation, and fits it into this framework. All right, I'd like to tell you a little story behind the theorem, but there's no time, so I'll say thank you. And if there are any questions, I'll be glad to entertain them.